There we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom, and welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Ducks Unlimited and Pacific Calls. You got some cigars, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I'm probably going to smoke one today if I can get to feeling a little bit better. It is Memorial Day, so.
Yep, we got a special podcast brought to you, for you today. And with us from Southern California is Mr. Davey Lind. David, how are you doing? Lind.
He can't read his own notes.
I'm doing great.
Our intro, every intro we've done 700 episodes counting football and this, and I screw up I've got it right on 4 times, I think.
80% of the time he screws up the introduction. He either screws up a sponsor's name, he screws up his own name, or he screws up the guest's name. He screwed up the podcast name several times. So.
Yep.
So now it's kind of like your shtick, right? That's just like how bad is he going to mess it up today,
exactly right?
If I read it verbatim, I fuck it up every time. If I just go off the line, I do pretty good. But if I try to read my notes, I always fuck up every single time. So you are in Southern California, you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, correct?
I'm assuming
Yes, sir.
you grew up around the Pittsburgh area, or did you just because you're how old are you? You're 50.
Yeah,
you're in your 50s, aren't you?
I just turned 51. So really old to some and just a pup to others. But I grew up in northwestern Pennsylvania, in the hills of Pennsylvania. About if I'm driving, it's about 2.5 hours north of Pittsburgh. If my mom is driving, it's about 3.5, 4 hours north of Pittsburgh. So, but yeah, small town lifestyle. That's where I originate from.
And did you always have this calling to join the military, even from a young child, or is this something that developed as you grew older?
You know what? I would love to say it was a calling that I had, and kind of church it up a little bit. But the truth of the matter was, I was always enamored with military movies, military lifestyle. I never found the appeal, and I'm not. Maybe if I'd known about the Navy SEALs at a younger age, maybe I would have looked at the Navy. But I never was attracted towards the Navy or the Air Force. So when I was growing up, I, like a lot of young men from where I'm from, guns and outdoors and things like that appealed to me. So that was always the Army or the Marine Corps. That meant a lot to me, just the lifestyle and things like that. That's what drew me towards the military. And then once I got into high school and looked at the recruiters and the options and things like that, then I was sold on the Marine Corps from the time I was about 16 and a half years old. And
did you enlist at 18?
I enlisted at 17. I joined them. I did what I don't even know if they have it anymore. It was called the delayed entry program. So I finished my junior year in high school and went to. So I signed up for the Marine Corps 1 year in advance. So right after I finished my junior year in high school, so my whole senior year I was dedicated to, or was already committed to enlisting. And then what happened is I graduated high school and then was standing on the yellow footprints at Parris Island about 3 weeks later. And
now we had somebody in our local area that did that, didn't we, Jeff? Because we wondered, somebody did that, enlisted as a junior, and then they played sports their entire senior year, because I think this kid might have gotten like hurt in football or something, and we were like, if they're enlisted, I wonder if recruiters are ever like, hey, listen, don't play sports because we want you as soon as you graduate.
I don't know his exact situation on that. More importantly, what it was for me was kind of another barometer to keep my nose out of trouble, so to speak. So, and where I come from, it might be different now. I can't imagine it is, but there wasn't a whole lot going on. we didn't have a movie theater in our town, things like that. So it was an all day affair to drive, an hour away. You went to your movie, you figured out what time your movie was showing, you went shopping at the mall, you did all that in one fell swoop. So it was more about keeping us out of trouble. And we got into all the trouble that you could get into as young men in that part of the world.
That's how it is out here. I mean, when we grew up, the closest movie theater and Walmart, whenever I was in high school, is an hour away. So, date night, you go dick around at the mall, and then it's movie afterwards, and then you got the hour ride home to canoodle a little bit, maybe veer off the highway, just a hair.
For sure.
So, what took you out to Southern California? Were you stationed out there and just fell in love with it?
Well, stationed out here, didn't fall in love with it first, but I was just talking about it yesterday. Memorial Weekend, people are always, kind of asking about my service or talking to me. And I thought for sure, where I came from, I thought I was going to get stationed at North Carolina, Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And the Marine Corps said, "Oh, no, you're not." And I checked into 29 Palms, California, December 31st, 1989. So New Year's Eve, I checked into the high desert. And if you've never been out here, it is impossible to describe how much of the moon it is. And I arrived at night and on a bus from Palm Springs, flew into Palm Springs, and then was on a bus and checked in. And you come in there at night and you don't, the lights, you look like, oh, this isn't too bad. Next day I woke up, opened the door for my barracks room and looked outside and almost, lost my mind. Like, how does anybody live out here? This makes no sense. And I've lived in California ever since. I put down roots with kids and things like that along my life. And then ultimately, once I decided to stay in the Marine Corps, it was after my first enlistment. Once I decided to stay in the Marine Corps, it took me to Camp Pendleton, which took me on to other avenues of adventure and stuff. So,
would you say Desert Palms is a good place to, if you're going to go to the desert in the Middle East, that's a great place to train?
I'll do you even one better. Not only was it a great place to train, but the thing that was really important is I didn't have an option to go home. So, like, my brother joined the Marine Corps, my younger brother joined the Marine Corps, and he got stationed at North Carolina. And on a 4-day weekend, he could drive home. It was something that you could do, share the ride with a buddy. I never had that option. I came here, and I didn't go home for 5 months. Was the first time I went home before I went on my first deployment. And in that time of being here, surrounded by everybody, it made our group really cohesive. Very, we relied on each other a lot more than you would if you had options to do something else, in my opinion, of looking back on the lifestyle.
Now, when was your first tour? Was it Desert Storm?
Yeah, I went to Desert Storm. I was left on that deployment I was just talking about. I left on deployment in June, thinking we'd be back in 6 months later. And while we were on deployment, we went to Okinawa. It's called a UDP, unit deployment. We went to Okinawa, Japan, and then there was a coup attempt in the Philippines, and we went from Okinawa, Japan to the Philippine Islands. So I stationed on, I think it's called Luzon, if I remember correctly. So the big islands where Longapo is and stuff like that. And we were down there training, just being a force in readiness. And we had everything palletized to come back to Okinawa, and that was when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. That decision on his part put me in the Philippines for 6 months, unbroken time. So then from there we went back to Okinawa, and then from Okinawa I went to Desert Storm.
What are the Philippines like? They look pretty on in pictures. Was it a shithole when you were there?
It's a combination of things. You have beautiful women living in third world country environments. Houses that are made out of cardboard, people living in the jungle, like literally living in the jungle, no running water, no, things like that, and surviving. To cut right to the chase, the question that's out there, and the lifestyle, what by any definition would be basic prostitution is a lifestyle, is a commerce there, and it's very weird to wrap your head around. What it did for me is, as a young age, I showed up there thinking, man, these people are beautiful, these women are beautiful, and by the time I left there, with that 6 months, as I said, unbroken time, by the time I left there, I was like, ugh, get me out of here, I can't take this anymore. So it was definitely a rough introduction as a young man.
You know, if you look through the lens of history, prostitution has just been business. I mean, it's just a way for women to make money for the vast majority of civilization, and ever since they made currency.
Oldest profession in the world for a reason.
I mean, if you think about it.
Yeah, the hardest part that it was to wrap my head around was seeing mothers and dads push their
Right.
daughters into it. That was a difficult, but then if you take off, the rose-colored glasses, you look at it and say, these people are doing whatever they can to survive. So that was the other part that kind of, like I said, took some of the shine off of it for me once, after spending all that time there. I had a great time there, great experiences, great training, great liberty. When we weren't working, we had a lot of options there of things to do. And, so I definitely enjoyed it, but it gave me a unique perspective, as a young man.
People in America just don't realize how blessed we are. Just that prostitution is kind of your last option here, and other countries, or just anything. I mean, just any shitty job for a lot of people is the best that it's going to get. And in America, you're like, fuck, I don't want that job. Like, I don't want to lay concrete. I don't want to pour concrete and do all that stuff. Whereas in a lot of countries, it's, let me do that by any means necessary. I got to stay alive.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's anybody that's been there, they'll talk about going to Longapo. You talk to anybody, and any of your veteran friends that have been there, talk about going to Longapo and talking about, so there's a river, that the bridge that goes to Longapo City from the base, there's a river there that we call Shit River, and that's what it is. It's just, nasty, raw sewage, whatever. And as you crossed over the bridge, there would be kids lined up on the rocks on the other side, and you could throw money in, quarters or whatever I forget what their currency was called. It escapes me right now, but you throw these coins in, and they would dive in and find this and come up with it. Like, it's bizarre. It's bizarre to look back on.
We take so much stuff for granted in America. I've said many times, only two people that's ever died for us is a U.S. soldier and Jesus Christ. And I think there's nothing more prevalent than that with the way our soldiers and this stuff. But we as a society take for granted that our kids are taken care of. Those places there, those kids don't have a chance in hell.
They don't, and it's hard to, that's honestly the hardest part when I hear the vitriol about how negative people feel about our country. And I understand it's not perfect, but man, I've been all around the world. And I mean that. And I in the defense of what I'm going to say, I haven't spent a whole lot of time in Europe. So maybe that would be the thing that would sway me and say, oh, they're on par with us, which it kind of looks that way. But of every place I've ever experienced, no place compares to the United States.
Amen.
No place.
And if it wasn't for the United States, everybody in Europe would be speaking German.
Right. That's 100% fact. You have that perspective, and if we don't get it figured out, everybody over there might be speaking Russian before it gets even much further along.
One of the two. At the rate we're going, we as a society, we forget the steps it took to become who we are and how we got here.
We're too far removed.
Yeah, and then that's right. Kids today, I'm 54, you're 51. We grew up in the same time period, basically. We remember having to say a Pledge of Allegiance at school, a Little League oath, standing up with our hand over our heart. That was expected and respected. That's the way we did things. These kids today, that greatest generation at World War II, they're gone. Those people don't have any connection with them, which me and you grew up with that connection. And I think that's a lot of things. Those people fought and gave everything they can and lost friends and lives. And the Korean War never, ever got a lot of fanfare. The Vietnam War, for some reason, the media ostracized those poor guys that fought for us. And so our whole lifetime, but we had that connection to World War II and American pride, and our country doesn't have that nowadays, and they don't even teach that, and it's sad. But all we hear about is the racism in our country. Our country ended racism. We
ended slavery.
Ended slavery. I'm sorry, not racism. We ended slavery. You know, there's still slavery all over the world. I bet you've been to countries with slavery still.
Yeah, this is, you know, because this is a free-flowing conversation, nobody really wants to, you know, the funny thing about the argument that they make, pick any topic in here, you know, the greatest topic we have going on, negative topic we have going on in the country right now that I see is the gas prices. Everybody's talking about the gas prices, no matter where you are. So, you know, when somebody makes the comment, well, just go buy an electric car, you know, that sounds great. But you realize that power grid is being powered by coal. You know, coal, or, you know, why can't we talk nuclear? And where are we getting the stuff for the batteries at? You know, there's no longer, and they've done a great job of eliminating blood diamonds, but they haven't done a great job of eliminating, you know, the soldier warriors, the children soldiers that are out digging up the stuff to make the lithium batteries. You know, things like that are going on in Africa and going on in the Middle East. Nobody wants to talk about that. So it's unique to sit back and have a perspective and say, oh, we want to do this for the right reason, or this is what we're going to talk about, or this is what it is. But when you really get down, you know, pull back the curtain a little bit and really investigate it, that might not be the path we want to go down.
Fucking Nike shoes, the 5-year-old that's putting the battery in your iPhone or your Samsung. I mean, it all goes back to the same thing. And, you know, like you said, but it baffles me, and I wish more people would, if not enlist in the military, but just travel the world. We just got back from Puerto Rico, okay? It's close, but I mean, you still see the vast amount of poverty that these people are living in on an everyday basis. You go to San Juan, and I mean, the houses are all stacked up on one another. The streets are narrow, and, you know, they're close to America, but you still see that, like, people are poor there. And that's what I want my kids to see more than anything on these vacations, is just see how fortunate you are. Go to another country and see what they deal with on an everyday basis.
My favorite vacation destination to that point is Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. From where I live in California, it's a 2-hour direct flight, and I like it. But when you come in, you land at the airport, but between the airport and these resorts that you're paying to stay at, you see poverty all along the road, you know, cinder block buildings and, you know, things like that are going on. So, yeah, I agree with you. And I think it is important for the kids to see that.
And, you know, in the Muslim country, if you're gay, they throw you off of a building or set you on fire. And everybody's fighting for gay rights over here, and, oh, you Americans, but then they champion the Islam faith.
They do, and you know, man, this is a dicey subject, but I'll tell you right now, I never understood. I'm not homophobic. I just have a real question of, like, when did it become the driving force for every conversation, every commercial, every single thing? It's like everything I grew up liking is now illegal in some way, shape, or form, but meanwhile, everything that I grew up questioning, and I just, you know, question it. And I have several gay friends and family members. That's not the issue. I'm talking about mainstream media. Why is everything forced at me? And I'm not scared of it. I'm just questioning, like, why does this?
Not on our podcast, because we talk like this all the time, because we are very open about stuff. You can't watch a commercial on TV. I don't give a shit what it is that you don't see someone biracial or gay in it. It don't never.
Or pregnant men.
You know,
for someone.
I don't give a
shit. Whatever reason.
Yes,
I don't give a shit if you've got a gun ad and you got a black family and couple shooting a gun, or you have a white family or a Chinese, whatever the hell. I don't care. But you can't have just two people from the same ethnic background married. They just don't happen anymore. Every commercial. There's something the other day I was watching. It was like a freaking a State Farm insurance commercial maybe, and everything's biracial or gay. It was a gay couple on one of them. I'm thinking, do straight people buy insurance anymore? I mean,
what's funny? I thought about on the plane ride to Puerto Rico. I watched the new Scream movie. When I was a kid, Scream was the big. That was my favorite scary movie for a long time. Well, they had the new one that came out, the reboot. The only white characters, like truly white characters, were from the 90s in that movie. Like the whole new cast they had a gay couple, of course, and they were all of mixed races, but there was only one white kid that was a main character, and they killed him off in like the first 15 minutes. So spoiler alert, but the original Scream, they're all, they're just little fucking if they redid Varsity Blues today, it wouldn't be the same one that I watched.
Well, but. It's funny you said that, because back in the old days, if there was a black guy in a horror movie, his ass was dead first.
Oh, yeah, he's dead first. They did kill off this black guy.
So that's what they used to do on that stuff. But I watched Frasier, the old sitcom from the freaking 80s or 90s, whatever it was.
Wasn't he?
His brother's gay in real life, or the guy that plays his brother. They were making fun of gay people on there.
Sure.
And I watched King of Queens the other day. I rerun. I was going through the house and it was on, and they were making fun of gay people. I thought, boy, you'd get canceled. And that wasn't that
just
far.
Make fun of everybody.
It wasn't that
Be
far
equal
ago.
Opportunists. I don't care.
I don't. We live in a sensitive world where everybody's pussies is what it come down to. Everybody's afraid to speak their mind. And that's the honest to God truth. And that's one of our biggest problems. When you were in the military, how many times did you dog on guys, or did they get dog on over ethnicity, gay, anything like that? You were guys and you made fun of each other, didn't you?
Man, let me tell you something. There is a reason. If this thinking, I have stories upon stories upon stories. But I'll tell you what, right now, my first roommate when I got to 29 Palms, and I'm not making this up for this. I can email you guys pictures if you wanted to see them. In my first room at 29 Palms, there was Glenn Woodard and there was Rodrigo Diaz. So, to use your phrase, spoiler alert, Rodrigo Diaz was, is a Mexican kid from, might have been Texas, but I'm not sure, but definitely a Mexican kid. Glenn Woodard was dark black and from the Philadelphia streets. Me, the white guy from the hills of Pennsylvania, Rodrigo Diaz and Glenn Woodard, roommates, had to live together, had to work it out. And every Thursday night in the Marine Corps, it's field day. Now, when you first come in the Marine Corps, let me just let you in on a secret. When they're like, hey, we're going to have a field day today, I was thinking, because I just got out of high school at the time, I'm like, oh, we're playing. What do we got? We got like soccer going on, or what's, it's going to be a nice relaxing day. No, it's like clean everything to its original status. Thursday nights, 29 Palms, field day night. The way we got through it is we rotated who had a choice of music. You got 2 songs, you got 2 songs, you got 2 songs. And that's how you did it. And you would go from, country, whatever, hard rock, hip hop, rap, and rotate that whole way through. And that was how you worked it out. As far as your sensitivities and stuff, go ahead and have a problem and keep that to yourself, because as soon as they know what's irritating you, they're going to tug on that thread and tug on that thread. So and the madder you get, the more there's not going to be like, oh, you're feeling kind of bad about this.
Right.
Let's give them a break. No, that's not the way it works. It's they go a little bit harder after that.
That's the way it should be, though. That's the way life is. I saw moronic today. CMT is celebrating their Gay Pride Country Music Month. Now, that wouldn't have happened 30 years ago, I can guarantee you. I laughed my ass off when I heard that deal. I thought, boy, we have went way to the left nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, I love Elton John, but he's always talking about marrying a chick in all his songs. But he's never written a song where he's talking about making out with his husband.
He knows where he was selling records a long time ago.
Yeah. So, 2007, you were involved in an accident. How close were you to retirement when this all came up?
At that time, so 2007, I had 16 years of service, and I was going to do, I had 18 years of service, and I was going to do between 20 and 22 years of service. I was definitely going to stay for 20, but I was going to do no more than 22 to 24, and that was based on what I wanted to do after the Marine Corps, which I wanted to go to LAPD. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be a cop. And obviously the big man upstairs had different plans for me. I'm not sure I answered your question,
Well,
but
you
I'm not
had,
sure where you want me to go with this now.
You had 4 years left. I didn't know if when you had your accident, if you were like on your last tour that you were going to do in your military career, or if you still had a couple years to go.
It's the truth is what I did in the training that I had and the platoon that I had. I was in the sweet spot of my career. I had attained enough rank that I could kind of, in military terms, I could do what I wanted. I had options to go and do things that I wanted to do, but what I was doing was really exciting and rewarding in the sense of I got to train men and be around them day in and day out. That part is what's best in life,
right?
Doing that. So I had 2 to 4 years left before I was gonna, go on to something else. I was a Master Sergeant Select in E8, and it was going to be my last go as a platoon sergeant, which is the greatest, most rewarding job out there in the Marine Corps. So,
so
yeah, there you go.
Your Humvee, you're driving down the road. Your Humvee drives over a roadside bomb. Have I got that right? And
yep.
And then you lost both legs below your knees.
Right. I started off both legs below the knee, and then through surgery, I became what's called AKBK. So my left leg is below the knee, and my right leg is above the knee. So I don't have I have my full femur, but I don't have any of the knee joint to like activate a prosthetic. So on my right leg, I have a mechanical knee, microprocessor knee prosthetic. And my left leg is something pretty common. It's just a below the knee, so it's a socket that my leg goes into, and then the foot is just, it's carbon fiber, but it's just dumb technology. There's nothing too fancy about it.
Who else was? How many did you have in your Humvee whenever this incident occurred?
I had 5 in a Humvee. I had a 28-man platoon, and I was the trail vehicle. I was a 6th vehicle in a 6 vehicle convoy, and how the other vehicles missed it, I don't know. It is baffling. But the blast went off right underneath me, directly underneath. I was never knocked out. Everybody else in the vehicle was knocked out, and they all rate and deserve the Purple Heart. But we didn't lose any other. I don't want to call them superficial, blown eardrums, PTSD, TBI, things like that happened. But they kept all the limbs.
You took the brunt of this blow whenever it detonated, and basically nobody.
Correct.
Like you said, you want to be respectful, but nobody lost any fingers or toes or anything else. Just you.
No, just me.
Go ahead, Andy.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
No. How long did you? I guess you had immediate attention since other vehicles were right there, correct?
Yeah, I did. My corpsman, this guy named Brian Thurman, he was in my vehicle. So I was sitting right passenger front. So passenger front seat, he was sitting driver's side rear. So to my, what is that, 7 o'clock? And him not being wounded is what was able to save my life. So I got myself out of the vehicle. He got to me and started working on me right away.
Now, you said you were awake through all of this, so you remember everything. Was the pain excruciating, or is it just kind of one of those things that happen so quickly that you're just kind of reacting and trying to get out of a bad situation?
No, it was, so the blast goes off. There was a moment of euphoria where I'm dazed. I felt like I got hit with the best sucker punch, and technically I did, because the blast threw me up into the windshield, bulletproof glass, and so now I have pain in my right leg. I do a self sweep, it's called, and my leg ends prematurely. So I'm just kind of like, oh fuck, you got to be kidding me, And so I opened the door, And as I'm thrown up into the glass, I kind of have to, without any grace or anything, kind of unstuck myself from the vehicle and flop out. And at this point, I'm not even aware that my left leg is gone. I'm pretty sure that it was pinned up and I tore it off. Like I remember a tearing sound that I thought might have been my uniform, but at that point in time, it was, if I was able to tear it off, it wasn't, it wasn't hanging on by much. Exactly. I get out of the vehicle, hit the ground, and as I'm getting out of the vehicle, I'm like, Brian, I need you. And so I fall out of the vehicle. And at this point in time, we were very, very worried about fire and homemade napalm that the insurgents were using. So I was trying to get away from the vehicle. And I rolled onto my back to try to scoop myself with my left leg. And when I did, that's when I realized my left leg ended as well. My corpsman got to me and he started working. And for about a nanosecond, as a platoon sergeant, I was armed with both a rifle, an M4, and a pistol. And for about a nanosecond, being aware of what my injuries were and having a preconceived notion of what I could do as an amputee, I was in the process of making a decision to kill myself. Like there's like I'm not dealing with this.
Have you ever seen that in your career? Have you ever seen an injury like this and somebody take that route in your career?
I've never seen this injury and then have that person take that route on the battlefield. Right. I've never seen that. I was actually introduced to a story that happened about a different unit in a different part of the world at a different time, and it was relayed to me of what these guys of what this one individual did, and for whatever reason it jumped out at me at that time. It's amazing how the brain works. At that same point in time, I had that thought about my kids, thought about the woman I was married to at the time, and what could I do? And like, it's fine. I'll figure this out. And I pushed out the thoughts of self-harm, and literally on my back, gave it up to a higher power and was like, if this is the path you want me to walk, I'll walk this path. Whatever you put in front of me, I'll take that path. I had that thought. And at that moment, that was when my corpsman got to me. So all this occurred in the smallest amount of time, but yet somehow took forever, if that makes sense. And he got to me and started working. And had I known the pain that I was about to experience in the next 10 seconds, I might have felt a little bit different about my decision, but it is what it is. And then at that point, the corpsman started working on me, and we had some of the men from my platoon came in and pinned me to the ground, which was absolutely excruciating. And he got me stabilized for medevac helicopter to come in and get me and take me to the infield
surgery.
Now,
what all did he have to do? You said the pain was excruciating. What all did he have to do to save your life?
So he's doing the things that he has to do, applying tourniquets and stuff like that. Tourniquets are absolutely excruciating. He's giving me morphine to manage the pain. I'm sure he had an IV going on me. He had to do I'll probably mess up the terminology. It's a nasal pharyngeal, and it's basically a tube that goes up your nose, they rotate, and it comes down so that you can't, so you can breathe. So if you pass out, they don't have to, they can get a tube in you, they can intubate you. So these are the things that he's doing. The pain was in my limbs for sure, but the other pain, believe it or not, that was just as bad is I had 4 barrel-chested freedom fighters working on me, pinning me to the ground. So you have a man at your shoulder with his knee on the ground facing outboard, so protect you and holding security. But I have a knee on each shoulder and a knee in each hip flexor, so pinning me to the ground. And for fun, try it when you get home. You can't, if somebody does that to you, you can't move. You're not getting somebody up off you like that. So it was horrible. There's I don't have enough adjectives to describe how bad that was in that bit of time until morphine took over and I got,
Do you remember the helicopter ride?
Yeah, I do. This is a rough one for me right here. I do, and the reason I do is because one of my team leaders was the last person to talk to me as he put me on. They got the radio. So let me back up a little bit. The long haul radio we had was underneath my seat, was in my vehicle. It was destroyed, so we had to get a backup radio that they had in another vehicle. So when they finally, and I was very comfortable at that point dying on the battlefield. I thought they're not going to be able to get the helicopter. I'm going to be okay. They did, and they got the radio up, got them in, and I just remember Dan Price carrying me on the stretcher, and I remember his strobe or his flashlight or something was hanging from him that was illuminating. I remember very vividly that shadow of his face of what it was doing, and he put me on the bird, and he said, take care, boss. Get well. We'll see you soon. Dan was a phenomenal team leader, and he was always that one that was testing my limits just a little bit. So he always was a phenomenal team leader, great young man, and I'm remorseful because he later was killed in Afghanistan, and so we made that deployment through. The team did good after I left, and then he went on to other deployments, and then he was KIA in Afghanistan in 2012, and that it always sticks with me. That scenario that we just went through.
And that was the last thing that he said to you.
That was, well, I saw him later, but that moment of him, I when I came back, I was real lucky. My platoon finished out their deployment in Iraq, and then they went on to some Liberty ports on the way home, and I was home, getting healed up, getting my prosthetics going and stuff, and I was able to meet him on the beach when they came in off their deployment. Saw them all back. So I saw everybody again, and I interacted with them over the years, but he was later killed, and that what is it
like? What's the mentality like whenever a leader such as yourself is hurt on the battlefield, and then somebody else has to come in and rally the guys that were underneath you? As somebody that rose through the ranks, when the leader changes, does that throw off the entire dynamic of the platoon?
So there's two parts of that. It does. It will throw off the dynamics of the platoon if you do it in peacetime. So I've only experienced it in peacetime to this point. But what I did in my platoon is I trained, it's the attitude and the mentality of the next man up. So team leaders have ATLs, platoon sergeants have, they have a platoon commander that they work in tandem with, they work hand in hand with. But the way it was worked is the next senior man was a Staff Sergeant Penner. He, became the acting platoon sergeant, took that over, and his ATL became a team leader. So there's these rotations, and then you have to be flexible, and so the attitude of next man up is there. I never had, under a combat situation, a whole replacement of somebody in a leadership role. I never experienced that. Thankfully, I never experienced that.
I want to go back to so you get on the helicopter, you fly back, and you land in surgery in Saudi Arabia, right? Or where do y'all fly back to?
At that point, I flew back to a base. We called it TQ, but it was Taqadum Air Base in Iraq.
So they operated on you right there, right? And then do they fly
Correct.
you to Germany after that, or Italy, or do you fly straight back to Lackland and San Antonio?
Now, with my injuries, so the first surgeries you have are debridement, like life-saving and then debridement. And the bombs, the explosives are dirty and nasty, and then the soil and just the environment in the third world country is very dirty all the time. So I had to fly back I had to go to debridement surgery in Tecate, TQ. Then from there, I went to Longstuhl, Germany. Same thing, debridement surgery. And then I got to Bethesda, Maryland. So I was hit June 14th, and I was in Bethesda, Maryland on the 19th. So in that 5 days of transition, there's a overnight, and then there's a couple surgeries at different places. But I was on some really good narcotics at that time to manage the pain. And, so those days kind of are a blur. I remember the surgeries, and I remember coming out of the surgeries, but I don't remember the exact days of travel and things.
How long until you got injured on the 14th of June? When did you get fit for prosthetics?
Man, that's the part that makes me world famous. I was hit June 14th, 2007. I was a Master Sergeant selectee, and I wanted to walk to my promotion. So I started asking right away when was I going to be able to walk, and they told me originally it was going to be 10 months to a year. So I knew I was going to get promoted in about 6 months. So I already set my goal as I'm walking my promotion. I'm going to walk in 6 months. That's what I set my goal as. The next thing that happened is when I came to California after day on, day off of surgeries, physical therapy, things like that were going on. When I came back to California, I had a good friend that was getting married, and they wanted me in the wedding ceremony, and they thought that it would be great to have me push down the aisle. And I said, hell no. So I worked really hard to be able to walk in their wedding. So I'm proud to say I started walking with one prosthetic at the beginning of August, and that was just learning how to swing. Like, my body was moving a different way, so that was figuring that out. And then I went and started walking 2 months of the date of my injury. So I was hit June 14th, and I started walking August 14th, 2007, and have been pretty much walking ever since, with the exception of infection or injury or something like that over the years. But yeah, so 2 months.
Were your doctors amazed, or were they trying to slow you down?
It was a combination of both. At my rank, at my position, so I was a recon Marine, and I was a gunny, Master Sergeant selectee, like I said. But I became, tongue in cheek, the mascot of the Marine Corps for a little while, because my injuries, my rank, and then my rapid recovery, it would put me in a different light. So, I'm now there's still a leader, but just leading in a different way. So they encouraged it, they supported it. And then there was times they wanted me to slow down and things like that. And the way they make you slow down is I had to demonstrate, this is funny, I had to demonstrate that I was proficient with my legs before they let me take them home at night. So here I am walking in the daytime, working on my balance. And then it would be like, okay, you need to leave your legs here, until you do some other things. And I have to, go from, I was walking with a cane or crutches to go from there to get back in my wheelchair to go, back out in out in the world.
Is that just
for the
so
day.
that you don't have an accident out somewhere, like at your home or something, trip, fall over at home and find yourself unable to get up, or what is that about?
Yeah, it's all that. It's all the make sure you don't put yourself in a bad situation. Make sure you don't try to do too much. Make sure you actually know how your legs work and how to recover. And that is training, go to the ground, go from standing up, and, you figure it out. But that's what it's all about, because, Marines in general, but, we're going to push the limits wherever we can. So, they wanted to keep us safe as possible.
Prosthetics have come a long way in the last decade or so. How was your experience with the VA through all this?
I'm this ain't going to fit anybody's narrative, but I'm proud to say that short of one or two instances or one or two individuals, I've had really good medical care through my recovery at that time. Today, I have there's a little bit of issues, because there's there can be one guy that says yay or nay to something you want. That drives me crazy. But for the most part, I'm been satisfied with their care and treatment.
That does not fit the narrative at all, because you hear just how terrible the VA is all the time, and it's refreshing to at least hear that you've had a positive experience.
For the most part, I've had a positive experience. They've worked. I know they worked hard to fix it and do things different. There's still some bureaucracy. There's still some BS that goes on, of course. But in general, when I'm with whoever, whatever, I can get seen. I can get taken care of.
I think the problem is that our government can't afford to pay the doctors, and they should be able to afford it. They can. We can spend all this money to Ukraine.
$53 billion to
we
Ukraine.
Can pay our doctors. Instead of letting these doctors get away from the VA hospitals, we need to hire more doctors. Pay them outside private doctor fees so they're there. There's no reason that our soldiers shouldn't have the best treatment we can have.
Yeah, it was, I agree with you. There is some things that need to be done differently, and it would be nice if they could do something to make them competitive so they feel like they're appreciated as much as any team doctor or team specialist on any professional sporting team. If we could attract that kind of talent, I think we'd be well on our way.
The story of the field medic and their training blows me away. About a month ago, we had a gentleman on. His name's Jack Zimmerman. He stepped on an IED, lost both legs. But what these field medics are able to do blows me away.
Yes,
because even in a perfect sterilized hospital, it's hard to do. Now amplify that. You're on a battlefield. You can't knock out the guy. You can't put him under anesthesia. Best you can give them is morphine, and they save lives every day.
They are, and that goes back to their training.
How do you train for something like that? How is that even something that's a possibility?
So for me, like I said, I was a Marine recon, reconnaissance Marine. Our corpsmen are called SARCs, Special Amphibious Reconnaissance Corpsmen. So they get all the training that we get. But before they do that, they go through the Army Special Forces course called 18 Delta. And they, like all the Special Forces courses, you start off one day with, as medics, they start off with like taking vitals. And by the time they're done with this year-long or 14-month-long course, they're now able to take an injured animal and maintain it staying alive, like horrific injuries, like simulating battlefield trauma. They do this. And it is, when you hear about what they have to do, it is very, very impressive, very knowledgeable. And I'm living proof that the training is worthwhile. The other thing that they do is once they come from that training and they get around us, again, they train us, the regular mouth-breathing, knuckle-dragging Marines, on the basic life-saving steps. And that's to keep somebody alive from, point of bang until they can get them transported.
I came upon a car wreck one night, and me and Tony were the first ones there, and a car had rolled over and had ejected a little 3-year-old girl. And the first person on scene was a local policeman from this little town, and he was an Army medic. And he got up and he popped his trunk open. He grabbed a medical bag and he got after it. And I thought, there's some doctors that ain't got the skills this guy has. Right.
And that's just a normal day.
And I asked him after the ambulance loaded up and he got her stable and stuff, I said, where'd you train that at? Because I didn't know if he took a class or something. He said, he was an Army medic, and he said, I'd served a couple of tours. And I thought, this guy here was very knowledgeable. And I thought, that police department, not only did they hire a police officer, but they got a dang paramedic basically to go along with it. It's amazing. That's what I was so impressed with the last guy's story, because of how that guy saved his life. And yours is the same way. If it wasn't for that guy and his training, you would not have made it. They are lifesavers.
For sure.
They are true 100%. Heroes. Just like you're a hero.
Just the the bravery of everybody, but the medic, like they're running to the scene of the crime. They're running to the scene of the bang to.
Well, he was in the same vehicle with you though, right?
Yeah, he was. lucky for me, very lucky for me that he didn't receive any of the injuries.
I didn't even think
That's
about
all
The
it is.
tourniquets are the things that is amazing, because that's a very that one on your leg is a lot. That has to be done. It has to be done in a timely manner, and they say it hurts like a son of a bitch when they do it too.
It ain't. I've had more fun. Let's put it that way. Wasn't the most
So
fun I'd have.
whenever after this happens, you make such a speedy, not recovery, but you speed through the process of learning how to maneuver with your prosthetics. Were you in such a focused mode for those 2 months? Like, okay, I've got 6 months to figure this out, and you ended up doing it in 2. Did you ever, during those couple of months, did you ever battle depression, or has that ever come, or does that come after whenever you get home?
You know, I definitely made some bad choices. The next couple months, I made some good choices. I did some things, and you're trying to figure out how to live life. I believe it or not, the thing I look back on that was just the craziest thing. I was isolated. My wife at the time would leave, go to work, kids would go to school, and I'd be all alone. I wound up getting was my strong argument for service companion, service dog. I had my first dog, got me going and doing something. But what I did, and I say this with no pride, it's not uncommon, but what I wound up doing is, I won't use the term addiction, but I definitely got hooked on video games. And I was on a video game platform. Call of Duty was the game at the time. But the whole reason I did is because I was interacting with people. I'd never done it. I had a good friend who was like, hey, he'd been doing it. I'm like, man, I'm playing video game. And then I got it. And I'm like, okay. And it was somebody to interact with, because I was going to physical therapy, and then I was being home, and I was trying to live life. And that was it. So I did that. And then I did some smart things too. So I went and did some traveling, and I had a large Ziploc bag filled with pill bottles of different things that help me sleep, things to manage my pain, and I went on a trip with my daughter. We went to San Francisco for an event, and we had 3 days to ourselves, 4 days to ourselves, a day up there to travel, 2 or 3 days in the area, and then a day of travel back down. And when I got there, I said, listen, we're going to go through it, because I'm going to stay up till I can't anymore. And then I'm going to sleep till I can't anymore. I got to kick this stuff, because I didn't like the way it made me feel. And in that 4 days, I kicked everything that I was on, and haven't, short of like a surgery or something, haven't been on anything since. But that was like a sign of positive. Like, I didn't like the way the drugs were making me feel. Got off them as fast as I could. Probably not. Again, not a lot of fun, but weaning myself off of those things. But it definitely put me on a better path of success.
How did they make you feel?
I don't want to knock anybody that's struggling with them. So I want to be empathetic to what they're going through. But I hated it. It's not like a happy-go-lucky. It's like you're in a fog. You're in a fog. I remember coming home from the hospital one time, and everybody's done that thing where you kind of are like tired and you kind of nod off, and then it like makes you wide awake again. You're like, oh, that scared you. I would do that 4 times at a red light. Like, I would nod off and then be like, oh my God, like a block from my house, like racing to get home, in a very dangerous situation. Probably could have got popped for a DUI or something with them, but looking back, I didn't know. I was just taking what I was given and then getting myself back and forth from physical therapy. That was it. So I didn't like the way they made me feel, and I needed stuff to help me sleep, needed stuff to help me get up. If I didn't take them early enough, I wouldn't be able to get up the next day. So, I'm taking pills at dinner time so I can go to bed and then sleep and get up and be somewhat functional the next day. So it was a challenge, dealing with everything. And
do you
think
that soldiers coming home that are battling PTSD or injuries like you sustained, do you think that doctors are too in a hurry to hand out these pills. And I mean,
So
and it's a double-edged
my opinion,
sword because you want these guys to have some sort of life, but at the same time, it's not good long term.
right? So my opinion, I believe, and I'll tell you why I have this opinion. My opinion, the narcotics that they're prescribing excessively at times, I believe, is contributing directly to veteran suicide. And the reason why I think that is there was 2 musicians that within the last 5 years killed themselves. Chris Cornell was one, and there was another musician. I can't remember his name right now. It escapes me. However, yep, exactly. Both of those guys were on a regimen that was very similar to what I was at. Seroquel was one of the drugs specifically that they referenced when they talked about it, and I believe
Chester Bennington. I couldn't remember his name either.
Thank you. I believe that the narcotics and the way it makes you feel, I believe, is contributing to the veteran suicide.
Well,
that's my opinion.
This is something that anytime that we've had a veteran on, I've always asked the question, why is it that we're seeing such an increase in veteran suicide now when we didn't see it with the World War II crowd?
So there's going to be a couple things. It's going to be the resiliency of the individual. It's going to be societal information. And then we're not going to be the way the World War II veterans came back. Yes, the greatest generation, but there was a lot of problems that were going on that they just didn't talk about. You know, we're just getting now to the point where men are actually in a comfortable area to talk about what they're going through. What they saw in World War II is absolutely horrific, but it's even crazier to think that they saw that, came home, and then just transitioned right back into society to do whatever they were doing, going back to work at the factory, they had those jobs, whatever they did, with no counseling, with no treatment, with no care. And was there excessive alcohol consumption, things like that? Sure. I'm sure there was. And I've known, seen stories of family members from friends and whatever that talked about it. 100%. I just think that the information that comes out now, there is an attraction to the attention that an individual receives from suicide, and that can lead on. And then there's other things. There's survivor's remorse. There's survivor's guilt. There's things that people are dealing with. I am a firm believer in getting out, getting active as possible, being around people, not sitting alone and being isolated. But that's my opinion on it. And one of the great things that we have in this country is so many freedoms that if an individual says, you know what, I don't want to go do anything, I don't want to be around anybody, it might not be healthy, but that's his right. That's his right to do that. So
well, and what I've often wondered, if it is the pills, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that we had the narcotics to give to the World War II veterans. And 2, there are so many programs that, like you said, somebody can choose just to sit at home and not do anything that day. Whereas when guys came home from World War II, it was pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You've got 4 kids and a farm that you've got to take care of, and it's just time to go to work. There weren't the programs that afforded those guys the ability to not do anything that day.
I would agree with that, and then I would also say that what we have right now is we have access to information, and we have access to, I won't say deserve, but we have access to programs that individuals rate. And you came home from World War II, I'm sure they gave you a book that talked about VA, and that book probably went in the trash can somewhere, as they're getting everything figured out. But Vietnam, same thing. That's going to be a book. You come home, nobody wanted to deal with that. Right now everybody's walking around with a supercomputer in their pocket, and I can Google research anything and find out the best care that I need for my for myself. So I think access to information, and then the other thing that I bear, and I want to say this very, very clearly. I received great treatment in this country today from individuals. I was out with friends yesterday, and somebody bought our lunch. Big bill at our table. Somebody bought our lunch, and that's from the care that one, it's where I live, but two, it's because the guilt of how we treated the veterans when they came home from Vietnam. America won't let it go back to that. They've now directed their attention towards the politicians that are making decisions, and not at the veteran that elected to go or selected to go.
Excuse me, spot on. I think society's also changed a lot because back in the 40s and 50s and 60s and early 70s, when you come back from war, it wasn't socially accepted to be going to see a psychiatrist or a counselor or anything like that it is today. Nobody looks down on you for that. And you're coming back as heroes, and outside of World War II in Korea, we haven't had heroes that come back. You know, all the time, if you see someone that's
you mean in the media?
The media, yes, didn't portray it. Not people, but the media.
The way the media portrayed them.
Portrays guys that come back now as wounded warriors, and you're looked upon as a hero like you should be. Where that happened after World War II, but we didn't have all the media coverage. And it was just not socially accepted during World War II to come back and say, hey, I need some help. I'm having trouble here. You know, because everybody was. Also, another thing, too, and after World War II, I'm going to bet you that on a block of 12 houses, I'm going to bet 3 of those 12 houses had someone that had been off fighting in the war. You know, we haven't had a time like that since then.
For sure. And, you know, I told you at the beginning, I live in Southern California, and that's accurate. But I live really close, like 1 mile away from Norco, California, Horsetown, USA. It is by far the most patriotic, God-fearing, gun-loving place that I've been in California. I absolutely love it. And that attitude, that society's attitude there is contagious. And it's a humbling place to live.
Imagine coming back from Vietnam. You've seen and done you've seen and done so many terrible things, and then you come home and people are spitting on you when you get off the airplane.
Yeah, that'll whip their ass.
No, I couldn't imagine that. I've been fortunate enough to have, you know, I've experienced the American Express commercial where I walk through the airport with my unit, and you know, the whole airport is clapping. I've been out in town and had people stop and talk to me, start up a conversation, you know, things like that. So I could not imagine, which is why I always tip my cap to those guys, what they did. What we did during that Vietnam War, we'll never do again, which is we won't, you know, the biggest problem we had was how we determined what the battle looked like, but it was the individuals. You know, individuals went and did, you know, they had a year tour of duty, and so they go as an individual, they come back as an individual. That isolation, that lack of cohesion, that nobody understands what you've been through. So that's why it always makes it better to go as an entire unit and come back as an entire unit. The isolation for me was one of the worst parts about my injuries is coming home and being alone in the hospital. My family's around, but you know, to be blunt and to be honest, they might not and probably don't really understand what I'm going through, what I saw. You know, they don't and they can't. It takes a like-minded individual who has experienced it to be able to have the conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, no soldier said, "Hey, let me go over there," especially not in the Vietnam War, because a lot of the guys that were over there wondered, like, what are we doing here? And I mean, it wasn't their decision to go in; it was the politicians.
100%.
But they come home and they're a villain.
That's one of our problems we have in our country is you've got a bunch of spineless twat-waffle politicians that are getting kickbacks and making money off of sending our soldiers to battle, and I have a real issue with that. I don't like it, and we're doing it right now again, and we're on the brink of doing some shit like it again. I do not like it. I'm a firm believer that the United States is the world's police force, and I don't like that no more.
We shouldn't be.
No, not at all. We need to take care of our own. The Ukraine bullshit, I'm tired of that stuff too. You know, I don't understand why we're having to pay for two other countries fighting. It just does not make sense to me.
Meanwhile, our schools, you know, you look at what happened in Uvalde. What would because we've given $53 billion to the Ukraine since all this started in February?
We could have 3 armed personnel work year round.
How much security could we put on our school systems with $53 billion?
You know, this is such a hot button topic, and I don't know the answers. I know the things that I'd be willing to do to make it more safe, but I'm also a firearm enthusiast. I'm as not only from where I grew up at, something has changed. I see the debates. You know, I'm on the social media and I see the debates and you know, unfortunately, I don't have the answers. I don't know what the answer is. I know I have some suggestions, but I don't have the answers. So
it's a complex issue, because if you look at all of the people that have done, number one, we should stop blasting their name and who they are on the news whenever we find out who committed these actions, because that starts off a copycat. Right away, we ought to eliminate, and Ron said this when Columbine happened, and Jeff's dad, in 1998 or whenever it was. Don't publicize who did it. Leave them anonymous. 2, it's a fatherless issue. It's a lack of a good father figure in the home. And 3, it's the pills. It's SSRIs. It's antidepressants. It's everything. That we've got such a cocktail that we're giving these young kids. And honestly, I think that kids don't get enough ass whippings. If that weird little fucker from Uvalde, and if that is true, and he is the shooter, because there's a lot of we won't even go down that rabbit hole. He was a fucking freak. He was a weirdo. If we had bullying still, he'd have fucking got. You're either gonna straighten up or we're gonna beat the fuck out of you every day.
What you're saying, spot on. They don't play smear the queer no more like they did. Did you play that when you was a kid playing football?
Yeah, of course. And then I can still. You show me a picture of that red rubber ball from dodgeball. I can hear it.
Smell it.
You know, I mean, it makes one noise. Yeah, and it's like that bong when it hits off. I mean, there was not a more gratifying noise than when you got your buddy with the right lead, just the perfect, like, wham, just like right on the side of the dome right there. That was perfect.
Did you ever? Have you ever seen a kid go to the hospital from playing dodgeball? I haven't, and I've played thousands of games as a kid growing up.
It's bad for their self-esteem, Jim.
No, it's not either. You know what it is? It makes the kid that's a pussy and a geek in the back of the gym learn to be a better fucking athlete, is what it does.
But we got to worry about his feelings.
We do have a little bit of a nature over nurture is kind of where I'm at right there. So, I agree with you. So
let's talk about Uvalde for a minute, or let's just talk about schools in general. What, from your military career and your military expertise, would you have every school be a single entry building?
Again, you know, I feel like I would. I feel like there would be security of some point, but you know, we have changed so much that I didn't see the change happen. The change happened while I was away from it. You know, when I was in high school, Titusville, Pennsylvania, I remember the first day of buck season, the first day of doe season, the first day of archery season were not only days off of school, but Hunter Orange was part of your fashion ensemble coming to school, and in the back of every pickup truck, in the trunk of every car of kids that could drive to school and teachers, there was rifles, there was hunting rifles, there was things. I grew up in a house where my dad had all his hunting rifles lined up, and it was do not touch, you know, and I'll know if you did touch them, and you know things like that. 5 years ago, I went home to speak at my high school. And I was blown away because it did have a single point of entry, and they did talk about you couldn't do these things anymore. And as far as bringing hunting equipment to school and things like that, and it changed so much. And I wasn't part of the change. I wasn't there to witness the change. I just showed up with it being different. That I don't know what the right point. I mean, every school is going to be different. Here in California, where my son goes to school, they do have there is an armed deputy on the campus. There are single points of entry, but multiple points of exit from the school. And I never thought about it in a defensive posture type situation until, these things started happening in the news. I'm like, yeah, so that's good. I mean, but I don't know I don't know the answer to it. And I'm stumbling over my words here. I don't know the answer to it because it's so complicated. I could not imagine. I don't want to throw shade, I couldn't imagine being on the premises of that school shooting and not acting.
1 hour
I couldn't.
Since the first 911 call went out.
It's mind baffling to me. I tried to explain to somebody how, Saving Private Ryan. There's a famous scene in that where two guys are fighting for their life, a German and an American troop, and one guy is frozen with fear. I couldn't imagine being frozen with fear. I would feel like I would have to do something. And I'm not painting myself as a superhero. I'm just saying I could not stand by idly and do nothing. I would have to do something. Would I break the windows and start pulling kids out of I don't know. I don't know what that answer looks like, but you have to do something. And I'm blown away by the decision to not act that time.
I deal with police officers a lot.
Jeff's a judge.
And I have for a long time. And I'm friends with lots and lots and lots of them. And I don't know one police officer that I know that I think would not have intervened immediately. And I can tell you right now, in our town that we live in, if that same thing happened, there is a dozen men in this town that are going to go in there and going to risk their lives. And there's more than a dozen, probably, parents, everything. And it just blows my mind. I am utterly embarrassed for the police officers if they did do that. I have a hard time believing that still until I just really cannot believe
there's so many there's so many conflicting reports.
Yeah, and and especially our DPS guys. They are the bravest. They work in middle of the road, working drug cartels by themselves on the deal. And I know a lot of DPS officers, and I don't know one of them guys that would have sat back while a kid is getting somebody abusing a kid for an hour. I cannot believe that part of the story. That just absolutely blows my mind.
Not only that, they were turning parents were ready to go in, and they were tasing parents, they were pepper spraying parents, they were barricading them.
We would have been whooping some bitches' asses if my kids were in there. They would have killed me. I'm telling you right now, I could not do that. But there's not an answer. I'm like you. I don't know. I don't have an answer on it. It's kind of like the abortion deal. And I know abortion's completely different, but the side that's fighting for the right to abort 9-month-old fetuses or babies, whatever you want to call them, are the same people that's wanting to wanting to do away with all of our guns.
And we're wanting to get away from the police 2 years ago.
Yeah, so everything's so screwed up. But I don't have an answer on gun. I don't think gun control is an issue. Just this weekend, we had a shooting in Charlottesville or somewhere in Virginia where some guy jumped out at a party and was shooting at women, had an AR-15, and guess what? Some lady had her right to carry, and she popped his ass and killed him. Right. Well, if she wouldn't have had her gun and stuff, he might have killed 30 more people. But there's not an answer to it, except we need to teach young people guns are not bad. You just got to learn to respect them. What we have as a problem is we have bad people. Last night, someone took a truck and drove into a crowd and killed 2 people and injured 18. Are we going to get rid of trucks next? The
gun debate, the ownership debate, the responsibility. I'm a firm believer in armed society as a polite society. So I feel that way about it. And the reason I feel that way is all you have to do is do a quick little Google search of how many weapons were bought by first-time gun owners during the riots that we experienced in 2020 after the George Floyd. So because what became apparent to everybody that felt a way about it was they're not going to be able to get to me in time. If something goes crazy, they're not going to be able. I have to take care of myself. That was their first time experiencing that. No one's coming. It's up to you to protect yourself and your family. And if you remember that, then you're going to feel a different way about weapons and things. And I find it very ironic that the people that are most outspoken about who shouldn't be armed are behind gated buildings with armed security around them all the time. That makes it very, and when you ask them why, it's like, well, it's a sense of security, it's a sense of safety and things. I don't want to turn it into us and them, but that's the way it feels for me. I don't want to infringe on your rights. I'm going to teach my children how to do a lot of things in life, and firearms is going to be one of them. And that's just who I am in that.
Do you remember when
moment.
Atlanta, after they had their shooting in the Burger King parking lot, when the guy took the cop's taser and the cop killed the guy, and of course the cop was in the right, but their mayor, of course, come out against police force, and all the policemen called in one night, like 600 officers called in one night. You know, everybody that lived in that town loaded up a gun and got ready for something to happen, because that's the only defense they have. We didn't have riots in small towns. Now, first of all, people say, well, of course you didn't. You don't have much going on there. We didn't, because the people that would have rioted and loot and burned would not have survived the day. Because in small town America, it don't matter what state you're in, those people are going to stand up and fight for because they know they have the backing. In Minneapolis, those people are scared to death of that crud. I mean, there's nobody to call. Nobody's going to help them. And I feel sorry for the police officers in all them towns.
Well, there is that part, and then somewhere along the lines, I've never experienced a place where people who have done so little now have this platform of influence that's so influential. I'm talking about actors and musicians and people that take up this defund the police movement, do things like that. That's insanity. But for whatever reason, because of the media, it has traction. Instead of somebody just saying that's a dumb idea. We need to fund the police better. We need to give them better training. We need to get every cop should have like jujitsu training so that he or she knows how to properly subdue, instead of getting the 2-hour self-defense class that they get in the academy or whatever it is. So that's a problem. And I'll tell you this, not because you asked, but because you got me going on a tangent. The reason why we have so many officer involved shootings now is because for the first time we've made it so strict for an officer to be, you can't be a guy that's had altercations with the cops or been in a fist fight before. We've made it so, from their education, which is fine, to how good a citizen they are, which is fine. But for the most part, we have people that have never been in a fist fight and they have a gun on their hip. So now their first course of action, instead of, being, the neighborhood beat walking cop that we used to have that knew everybody, that knew what was going on, now his first course of action is go to a weapon that he or she may not be that well trained on, because they don't have the opportunity.
I had a young guy tell me one time, and it was really good. It was one of the best things I've ever heard someone say. He told me, and this was about 15 years ago, he said, the problem we have in America, this kid was 18 years old and he worked for me, and his dad had told him this. He goes, people do not know how to take an ass whipping anymore. Nope. And that's, by God, the honest truth. When I was a kid growing up, if you got your ass whooped, that was the end of it. You might try to whip his ass again, and you might get your ass whooped again, and you might fight 6 or 7 times. But when the fight was done, eventually someone got sick of getting their ass whipped enough that they decided to become friends and go their own separate ways. Well, nowadays, the first thing they do is pull out a gun and stuff. People, and young people have lack of respect for a police officer. When you was a kid growing up, would you smart off to a cop?
That's no,
right.
That just sounds crazy.
Because you'd got your teeth knocked out of you. And then when you got home, your old man would have whipped your ass for being disrespectful to a police officer. Well, nowadays, first thing Dad and them do is want to sue somebody.
Yeah, I talked about that yesterday with some friends, talking about where I grew up at, because I said my town was so small that when I got in trouble, my mom knew before I got home. That was, somebody else, okay, go ahead, and I'm calling your mom just so you know. And, and one of those things, so it was like, oh, man, the dread of going home and knowing you're already in trouble, that there was no way to get out of it.
If you look at it, it goes back. The high school jock is not the one that's committing these things. He's not the one that's shooting up your high school. It's the guy that was an outcast, and he was weak, and he couldn't fend for himself. He started taking pills. I guarantee you, if they release what all medication this kid was on in Uvalde, but he's on 7 different pills, just a cocktail. And I've never taken these pills, but what I've heard from people that have is you have a lack of empathy for your fellow man. You don't feel you feel indifferent to somebody else's life.
Well, when you're on most of the stuff that I was on, you feel indifferent to most things.
You're at 50% on everything.
And that fog that I talked about is not. I don't wish that on my enemy. It's a pretty rough way to be.
To me, obviously, it's a complex issue. There are a lot of moving parts, but that is something that we need to look at. Do you think, because now they're saying that possibly push back being able to buy an AR to your 21, do you think that would have any impact? You can't buy a handgun until you're 21. I think that's correct.
So some things that I would spitball on with, and it's one of those things that I'm not like just talking about it. I wouldn't be opposed to wait until 21 to have somebody buy the rifle. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I also wouldn't be opposed to, and maybe it's, maybe there's somewhere in that sweet spot where it's you buy the rifle and there's a nominal, registration fee. Like, my vehicle, I have to go get registered make sure it's registered and then show proof of registration and things like that. Every couple of years I get if my vehicle's older, I get, hey, you got to go get an emissions test. You know what I mean? But the first thing that I would do, king for a day, president for a day, whatever it is, the first thing I would do is I would make the process to attain a firearm. If you're caught with an illegal firearm, it would be the end of days for you. But I would make the process with training and education an absolute requirement all the way around, with manipulation, loading, unloading, things like that. It wouldn't be this 16 hours of mandatory training. I would figure out a way to do it. But it's even saying it, you see right away, somebody's listening to this that are going, well, I want to take my 12-year-old duck hunting, or I want to take my, I understand that. There's got to be a way that you can buy and train. There's got to be something that goes on, but taking all the weapons away is not the answer, and open up the floodgates so everybody can have them is also not the answer. I don't know. It's such a complicated problem.
If you just look at the war on drugs that we've had in America, they hadn't had one fucking drug that somebody that really wanted to take drugs, they've not stopped one person. We got more drugs now than we did at the beginning of the war on drugs. It's fucking everywhere. So, it would do it would just create a black market for firearms.
Look at Chicago. You still can't buy a gun. You're not even allowed to have a pistol in Chicago. I can look it up right now on heyjackass.com or whatever it is that shows the Chicago crime stats. I'm looking it up right now. But you can't have a gun you can't buy a pistol till you're 21. You can't have a gun there unless you're Ken DeLory Lightfoot or some shit. But it's Chirac. They have more shootings and shit there than anything. Milwaukee's turning into the next one. New Orleans is a shithole. They say America is the 5th worst country in the world when it comes to crime stats. You take out the top 5 liberal cities that all have gun control, and we're like 158th safest country in the world. So you cannot buy. Those guns are illegal there, and they get guns. Fentanyl's illegal. How many people die of fentanyl every day?
Well, that's what I'm saying. War on drugs has not stopped anybody.
The one thing, if I could do it, if I could mimic another country, I would figure out a way in this country to adopt what Israel has going on with, you turn 18, you give yourself to 2 years of some sort of service so you can see and own part of the problem. And maybe you're a police explorer, maybe you're a firefighter, maybe you work at the library, maybe you are a crossing guard. I don't care what it is, Parks and Rec. It doesn't matter to me, but own part of the problem. The idea for me, this is silly because I just, I guess you're not supposed to smack people up alongside the head anymore, but it's crazy to me that somebody comes out of high school and goes into something that they find fascinating, like French studies, but they don't want to be a French teacher. They don't want to be a teacher. They go to 4 years or whatever of school. They get this education that doesn't translate well to everyday life. And somehow in that same point in time, we have made it less attractive to be an electrician, a plumber, a carpentry, anything like we have it, honest trades that are going to be needed no matter how advanced our society gets. We're going to need plumbing and electricity across the board. I've tried to push my kids into it, but they're my kids, so they're not going to listen to me, right? So, so that's the other part of the problem. I think the sense of entitlement is definitely crazy now we sound like old men that are like, you damn kids, get off my lawn, you know what I mean? But it is definitely a complex problem.
Another thing that I think that's an issue that's hurting our country socially. Excuse me, I got a cold. The people, we don't have nosy old women on blocks no more like we used to. Don't ride in my grass. I'm going to tell your mom. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Kids don't play outside and they don't get chastised by the neighbors for doing something wrong. Every neighborhood in the country, if you did something wrong, somebody was going to jump your ass and tell your parents. Don't throw rocks at people's windows. Don't do this. Things that kids did. We don't do any of that shit no more. You don't see kids. Kids don't learn to play with a BB gun anymore. That's a problem. How many kids your age had a fucking BB gun? Every kid you went to school with had a BB gun. Every kid shot cans, shot birds, shot each other. We played with guns, but we knew that we weren't supposed to do that with a rifle. But we did it with with a BB gun all the time. We do not condition our kids to be around guns. Can you even buy toy guns anymore at school at a store?
Shit, I don't know.
Unless it's a Nerf gun, I don't think you can.
You can buy, you can still buy the Daisy Red Rider.
No, I'm talking about just play guns, like cap guns and shit.
The ones that light up whenever you squeeze the trigger.
You don't see that shit no more like you used to.
I don't know. I don't shop for that.
Nah, not most of the time. Most of the time, it's like a very advanced ray gun kind of looking thing. It's hard to get the replicas.
So you started CrossFit with 2 prosthetic legs. What was that? Was that intimidating?
Yeah.
When you go to your first CrossFit class, are you like, I don't fucking belong here?
Yeah, I did. I was going through a tough time in my marriage at the time. It's we're going to talk about that in past tense, and CrossFit, it really helped me. It was a save all, because I could have gone 1 or 2 paths, and I don't. Moderation is for cowards. So if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna whole ass it. I'm not gonna half ass anything. I'm gonna whole ass it. So, and lucky for me, I made a good, conscious, healthy decision to go into CrossFit and went all in. And that was great, because at the time I was going through, I very easily could have, boohoo and woe is me and climbed into the bottom of a bottle. But what was good about it is I had to learn how to do everything, and I didn't realize how just my presence. I have pretty upbeat energy, pretty positive person. I solve most of my problems with crass and dark humor. So coming into a gym and looking at it and figuring out how to do the movements, was amazing. But the second thing that was funny is sitting there and eliminating everybody else's excuses. So they would come in and they would sit there and they'd be like, oh, one of my favorite stories, I actually went on to become a level 1 CrossFit coach. And one of my favorite stories, I got done coaching the class and somebody was taking off on a run. And one of the athletes in the class, she looked at me and she's like, I don't want to go on this run. Davey, say something to help me motivate me to be able to go out on this run. And I was like, well, I wish I could go on the run. And she was like, damn it.
I got to run.
And she, got up, took off, and went running. So, people would complain about their legs hurting or whatever. I'd be like, oh, really? I just give them a blank stare. Like, so, that's how I saw most of it. But I really enjoyed it. I think the community the CrossFit world itself is phenomenal. We got away from some of the things that I liked about it. It's not perfect. It's very frustrating with how they have not been able to make it adaptive and inclusive across the board. But we have so many injuries that are so different. I understand the problem, but still wish they do something to crack that code a little bit.
Yeah, I've never done CrossFit. We're in a small town. There's not a CrossFit gym here, but it looks brutal. It looks hard on the joints and the small ligaments, and it looks tough. A lot of injuries.
There is a lot of injuries, but the thing about it is, Greg Glassman, the founder of it, famously said, you show me an exercise program that's 100% safe, and I'll show you an exercise program that's ineffective. So you can get killed walking your doggy. There's a lot of things that go into it. Get the right coaching, warm up, and you'll be okay. Is kind of my
technique is key on a lot of those lifts. I did sports in high school and stuff, but if you get tired and your technique gets sloppy, well, that's where your injuries come from. If you're doing squats and then you start getting tired and you start bowing your back, well, that's when your back's going to go out. Or if you don't deadlift properly.
I've never seen. Yeah, I love coaching, and it's neat to be able to coach. Everybody knows like a story of a football coach that's in a wheelchair or something. I love coaching. And it's funny, I've never seen, in my years of coaching, I've never seen anybody hurt their back or hurt themselves on a 1 rep max deadlift or squat. I've only seen them hurt when we do moderate to lightweight with high reps, because form goes right out the window and they try to muscle it up, and that's what it is. So,
it's been an hour and a half, and I know you got a lot better things to do than chit chat with us, but it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I am glad that little Josh Moore put us in touch with you. How did you serve with his dad, or how do you know them?
Yeah, I didn't know if I was going to be able to drop Josh's name or the right way to do that. So me and his dad, Aaron, we were in First Force Recon Company together, and we got together in 96, 97 time frame. And I've known he's big Josh Moore now, but I knew little Josh Moore when he was shitting in his diapers, and saw him bouncing around. So he's my nephew by service is the way I refer to it. Aaron is my brother. That automatically makes his children my niece and my nephew, because you see these kids coming up, and then everybody was having kids at different times and going through different things with them. So when you see the pictures come in, you'd be like, oh man, what's going on with them? And, I'll look at them walking now and things like that. So just a phenomenal young man. I'm so happy he found his calling. And I'm definitely happy that he introduced us and put us up on this. But it's humbling to see how far some of these kids went that had military men as examples.
He's such a good kid too. He talks himself into some shit every once in a while.
He talks a lot.
He can back it. He says so, he'll back himself into a corner, and
we have fun with that. But he's a great kid.
What is he's like 21, 22?
Yep,
so,
good. He's a very good guy.
Very
customer oriented.
Very polite.
Yes.
He interacts with customers very well, and that is
very respectful. His parents did a good job. His mom done a great job raising him, because I think his dad was gone a lot, deployed a lot. But he is a good kid, good parents, great people.
Yeah, for sure. 100%
well, listen,
agree.
You have a great day out there in Southern California. It's Memorial Day today, so we wanted to tip our hat to the guys that have sacrificed it all for this country, and just something like this, being able to freely talk about ideas, that's what you fought for over there, and that's what so many people have laid their life down for.
Yeah, and let me tell you, I just have one selfish plug. I believe wholeheartedly my purpose for being here is to give back, to interact, and I was humbled by Josh calling me. If anybody out there listening, I live in Southern California. I motivational speak when called, when it's relevant. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me, real easy, DaveyLind.com, DaveyLind.com. There's contact information in there. Drop me a line. Tell me I'm full of shit for my stance on weapons, or tell me I'm spot on with whatever you want. None of it will offend me. So, but if there's something that somebody out there listening to hears this, thinks I can help with in any way, please have them reach out.
Well, we appreciate you coming on here. Have a great Memorial Day, and have a good summer out there. Stay safe, okay?
God bless you, my friend. Thank you so much.
All right, man.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. You guys have a great day.
Thank you. Great guy.
Great guy. Good job, little Josh.
Yeah, Josh, you done a really wonderful job.
You did a good job today, little Josh.
We appreciate y'all very much. I hope everybody had a happy Memorial Day weekend. Remember what it's about. It's not about just going to the lake and drinking and partying and checking out the chicks in the hot bikinis. It's a weekend for everyone that sacrificed. And it's not just the guy that they lost, but it's what it done to them families that left children behind. I've known a lot. Years and years ago, I'd go into people's houses when I worked at a furniture store, and I'd deliver furniture, and I'd go to a house, and it'd be a picture of a young man in his service uniform, and it happened more than once. I'd say, "Oh, your son was in the Army?" Yeah, he didn't come back from Vietnam. It happened a lot. And I was always felt bad for asking about him, but I think it made those people proud that you did ask.
Yeah, instead of it just being a picture on the wall.
Yes.
What? I don't know if I even want to talk about this, but
What?
The Uvalde thing. There's just so many conflicting reports. Like neighbors that are watching this are like, "No, that's not what happened. It wasn't an hour."
I have a hard time believing that the highway patrolman, because I saw a picture of some highway patrolmen just standing around bullshitting that deal. Right. I don't believe that. Every trooper I know, I don't believe that for a minute. I know in our little town, the parents, you could have kept, there's not enough police officers to keep the parents out of there.
Well, what about the fuckery? I mean,
there's something weird going on.
He was minimum wage, and then he got what he spent $5,000 on rifles and ammunition, and I read on body armor too, didn't he?
I read on Twitter, but he didn't have his plates in supposedly. I read on Twitter, and who knows what any of it's true, but the guy's like, "Oh, it's real simple. It's a very explanation for the guns. You know, kids get out of high school, they get all kinds of credit deals. How many kids at 18 years old get a credit card with a $10,000 credit limit? MasterCard them ain't doing that shit." You know, they might give you $1,000 credit limit. They ain't giving you $1,000. They're not taking that risk on a $10,000 on a kid.
And
had a bunch of cash on him. Why would you carry cash if you're going to go shoot up school?
Well, it's not just that. It's and once again, I don't know what's true and what's not true. But on Twitter, I lost my train of thought. They said that he encountered an armed guard. That turned out that wasn't true.
Well, he also was in a car wreck and supposedly shot at some people then. And I don't know what's going on. It wouldn't surprise me if it's a CIA hit piece on this whole thing to push
I didn't
gun
want to
control.
Say that.
Well, let's be honest. It's sad that every time we have something like this happen, we don't trust our government, and that's the world we live in now. You know, and I guess Biden came out yesterday and said he's thinking about just having the whole school knocked down. Well, I don't really think that's his call. I think that's the Uvalde School District's call on what they do on that. Beto O'Rourke made a total ass of himself.
Told him to get the.
And he is
you sorry son of a bitch.
He is a total ass.
You need to leave here.
Anyways, I don't know anybody that's a conservative that is not completely devastated by this. I don't want to.
I don't know anybody that's not devastated.
I don't want to see kids with guns running around shooting up people. But taking away guns is not the answer, and I don't know what the answer is either. I really don't. I wish we had more people were educated with guns, but I do know that if they'd had an armed security guard right there, that even if the kid would have shot the armed security guard, we'd had backup a lot faster.
Right.
Would have happened. There is a answer to everything. You're on school board. I'm not. I've never been in charge of a school. I don't know what the answer is.
We couldn't afford a private security.
No. I know that. And my answer is that fucking Ukraine money that's just being laundered to pay back Nancy Pelosi's of the world and Mitch McConnell's. Take that money. They said you could put 3 armed guards on every school campus in America for 10 years for the money we're spending. 3 armed guards. You can't tell me that our military, put a military guy in there, have him stationed here.
Yeah.
I mean, every town would get a rotation of 3 military guys that are getting paid to be in the service to be there. Guys have come back from deployments and stuff. And
what about the National Guard? I mean,
the National Guards are guys that are leaving their other job. How about having the military? A guy's been in the service for 20 years. The last 4 years, he gets deployed. Before he retires, he goes to Knox City, Texas, and he works at the school with 2 other guys.
We send the DPS down to the border.
That's right, because our federal government won't do their job down there. There's also a lot of people.
But if we've got the reserve DPS officers to send down to the border,
we don't have reserve ones.
So they just get taken off of rotation.
They leave here and they go down there and they get overtime.
So who
we're lacking them here.
Who enforces the law while they're gone?
We don't.
They don't.
Same with the game wardens. I'm telling you, when you get down in the south in the valley, you see highway patrols every 2 miles.
Right.
It's because they're taking them from everyone else. Our state's doing that because the federal government won't do their job. We need a change in D.C. would change a lot of this. We need politicians to have some term limits because this is the shit we deal with because this. And I'm not blaming them on the school shooting, but all of this shit is all part of the big disaster that's Washington, D.C., and it has been for years.
But it came back to me. What I had heard on Twitter was he had already gotten in trouble
4 years ago
for saying he was going to shoot up a school.
Yeah, so let's let him.
So, but hold on a second. He was 18. Was he 18?
Yes.
So he was 14 when he said he was going to shoot up a school?
Yes.
Like, how much can you hold a bad call on a teenager for the rest of his life? So let's say I was having a bad day at 14 and I had said that. Does that exclude me from buying a gun for the rest of my life?
I don't know. That's one of the things, but we used to not have to deal with this shit. I mean, we had school shootings ain't nothing new. And the guy in the Texas Tower in Austin shot that 1966, I think, with a deer rifle. There's evil people in the world. I mean, in Las Vegas, they just arrested a guy that did a gang shooting in Sacramento. He killed 6 people and he injured 12. They arrested him 2 months later. Well, it's a black guy that did it, and he shot up a bunch of black people. So for some reason, black lives don't matter unless it's killed by a white person.
Right.
And I've never understood that. Black lives matter is a fucking joke also. This whole thing with Uvalde is a horrible tragedy that some kids and their families are paying the ultimate for something that's going on that just doesn't make sense. I don't understand why it's not so hard to have every fact out there. Listen, there was someone left the door open. There wasn't a deal. He walked into school and shoot people. This is him. He was a weird fucker. He was bullied, or he was bullied. Somebody should have whipped his ass real good where he couldn't have shot somebody. I mean, the kid was wearing a dress, but it all comes down. There's no parents at home, no dad. He never went to church. He played video games all the time. He wasn't involved in anything. You're yet to see a star athlete go do one of these shootings.
No, it's always the same. Like,
weird
anybody
fucker
that does these things, you look at them or you read anything about them, and they're cross-dressers. They didn't fit in. And
I bet he painted his fingernails too.
I guarantee you, it's the fucking pills. You don't feel empathy towards other people. You don't feel like that's an actual human being. You get doped up. You get on these fucking pills, and then it's across the board. Any kind of mass shooting, the people are on pills. I'm not saying that is the only problem, but I'm saying that is a major problem in these things.
You know what happened in the 60s and 70s? We didn't have all them fucking pills.
Right.
I'm not saying that I went to school with a kid that was on Ritalin or ADD medicine or whatever, Adderall or whatever it is, because I don't know. But I don't think I went to school with anybody that was. You know? That's JoJo. He's slow over there. He's in remedial reading. Well, he wasn't going around shooting people. He just wasn't a real good reader. You know, he's probably a plumber now, makes $1 million a year. But you have to have a lane for everybody, and the lane is not to force feed them prescription drugs, to make the drug companies, doctors need to be held accountable on this shit. Where's his doctor at? That's what I want to know. You know, they're trying to pass a law now that if a drug dealer gets caught selling some people some bad fentanyl, they can hold him for murder. Well, how about these doctors are prescribing all this medicine for these kids that don't fit in?
Right.
You know, start holding them accountable.
Here's one. Before the late 1980s, mass shootings and acts of senseless violence were relatively unheard of. That's Prozac, the most well-known SSRI antidepressant, was not yet on the market. When Prozac did arrive, it was marketed as a
good luck.
Something for depression.
Panacea.
Anyway, subsequently, mass shootings and other violent incidents started to be reported. But just look at it. It's on sshflorida.org, which means it's not .com. So there's probably something to this. In a study of 31 drugs that are disproportionately linked to reporting of violence towards others, 5 of the top 10 are antidepressants: Prozac, Paxil, Luvox, Evexor, and Pristiq. 2 other drugs are for treating ADHD. Right there's your fucking answer.
I don't understand why people just can't deal with their kid being overactive. I would rather my kid be overactive than underactive.
I had that thought because we just got back from vacation, and my kids were, especially my 3-year-old, bouncing off the walls.
He never was a problem.
No. He was very active.
He's a kid.
And then last night when we got home, you could tell they were over the travel day that we had the day before. They were bouncing off the fucking walls. But there's parents in this world that are like, oh, he's jumping from couch to couch and over and under, and he's playing with something, he's throwing shit, and there's got to be something wrong with him. Whereas me, I'm just like, he's a 3-year-old boy that was cooped up on a fucking airplane for an entire day.
And he done great.
And he's blowing off some steam. I'm not going to go put him on Ritalin.
No, but that's what people do. I think a lot of these pill deals though, is a single mom deal, and I'm not blaming it on single moms.
That is a very big issue.
The
fatherlessness.
The fatherlessness. But I'm talking about single mom. She works all fucking day, and she's got this kid, and he's tired, so she gives him something to help him sleep, or knocks his ass out.
While on a mix of antidepressants, 16-year-old Corey Basgard took a rifle to the school and held 23 students hostage. His father said he was not a violent kid before he took the drugs, but while on medication, he was volatile and susceptible to blind rage. Corey does not remember doing any of this until he woke up. So I think that is, like I said, if you take these things, I'm not saying that you're a mass shooter, but all mass shooters take these things.
Well, I don't understand. Every time one political party starts having problems, we start having a lot of this shit go on. So I'm assuming the next 5 months until we get past midterms, it's going to be something like this every other fucking week on shit going on.
Sure.
And I don't trust them, and most of you that listen to this don't trust them. I mean, this pandemic they gave us, they shut everything down on that shit. And look what they did. Look what they did to our country and the world for their control.
This is what I'm putting most of it on. And I don't and this goes another thing. Just because you take these things, do you exempt yourself from being able to purchase a firearm and defend yourself?
No.
So what do we do here?
We're never going to get rid of guns.
But I mean, could you say, hey, if you're on more than 2 of these medications, you can't get a gun?
What company was doing the buyback the other day? They were giving people $50 for guns. They were giving $50
It was some police force in Florida. It was gas.
$50 gas card.
Get a gas card for a gun.
Let me tell you something. I will give you $50 gift certificate for any hunt. You just send me your gun, okay?
Any shirt you want.
Any shirt that you want, I'll give you $50 swag for any gun you got.
But it's a tragedy, and I don't know an answer. I think I know a lot of the symptoms, but I don't think that they're going to get changed anytime.
And you know what's funny? You know who's not having a problem with this? The gun companies.
Oh, no.
Because their sales will skyrocket the minute you start talking about this shit.
Well, and I mean, not to panic buy, but I had thought about purchasing another one.
It is panic buy. It's just thinking ahead.
No, I know, but I mean, I don't want to contribute to the. I'm always afraid that when I do something, I'm always like the last to do it.
You think you're behind the curve, so you think you're paying overpriced now.
Well, not just that, but it's just like, fuck, if I'm thinking about buying a gun, how many people that weren't in the market for a gun are now thinking about buying a gun? What's that going to do to the gun market and the gun prices? And I don't know.
Let me tell you, there's 330 million people live in this country, and I think there's 180 million of them have guns. If we had a gun problem, you'd know about it.
I'd meant to look up how many schools are in the U.S. I think it's 250,000.
I read the deal. It was 3 federal officers at every school could be paid for what we've sent Ukraine with complete security.
There are 98,000 public schools, 13,000, round down, 13,500 middle schools, 2,500 junior high schools, 24,000 secondary schools in the United States. So I'm guessing call it 100,000. There's 100,000, but this one says, as of 2020, there are 131,000 recorded number of K through 12 schools in the United States.
One of our other big issues is the freaking disrespect that we have in the world. Young people
lack of fathers.
That is. And young kids are disrespectful. I saw a video the other day of some girls fighting in Chicago at a school, and the police officers trying. It was just one kid fighting, and then another girl would jump in and start hitting on the girl.
Where she bit her cooter?
No, that was another one. But it was just amazing that the teachers are there, and the teachers are just sitting on the back watching it go on, just beating the shit out of a bunch of animals, just beating the fuck out of each other.
Do you want to go get involved in that?
No, but that's where we've come to in just the last 25 years. This shit didn't happen a long time ago.
Well, you had fights.
You had fights, but by God, nobody jumped on a teacher. And I'm going to tell you right, if you started a fight and a teacher slapped the fuck out of you, you settled your ass down. And then if a student jumped on a teacher, the other students would jump in. That happened in our own town one time.
Yep.
But that's the things that's the shit nowadays. No, you couldn't pay me to be a teacher at a public school.
Especially with the pay scale that they've tinkered around with.
I mean, We're in a dark time for our country with our youth. Really are. I worry about more and more of that. I hate homeschooling, but I more and more times I think about stuff in homeschooling. If you're not in a small town, I've said this since we've done the podcast, get your kids out of the urban areas. Get your kids out of it.
Not urban?
No, that's a there's some things are going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to be the best. Nothing's ever going to happen in a small town. I'm just saying get your kids out of the big urban areas. Get them involved in FFA.
Get them
to play sports, scouting, church. Get them involved with stuff and get them off them fucking phones. Mm-hmm. Make them play. Make them go do stuff. There's nothing wrong with kids using an iPad and stuff a couple hours a day. It's no different watching TV.
Right. But
don't make that their whole thing. Do stuff with your kids. Play board games with your kids, You're responsible for your children. I raised my 3 boys, and we didn't do a great job on all 3 of them, but they're all contributing to society, and they're not a problem society. I mean, and every kid you raise is going to be different, but we were responsible for you 3 boys, and we did the best we can do. I'm sure we made lots of mistakes, but it wasn't because we didn't care and didn't love you and didn't try. Parents today, they have kids. You need to get involved with your kids' lives. I make fun all the time of the travel baseball moms and dads. They go way overboard. At least they're involved with. That's right. That's what I'm saying. That at least they're involved, because the parents I know that do that, they're involved with their kids' lives. Mm-hmm. They may go a little extreme on some shit, but at least they're doing stuff with their kids. I got a lot more respect for them than I do the parent who don't do shit with their kid. Sending your kid to his room with a computer, an iPhone, and video games, you're not raising your child. The internet's raising your kid.
And that's a scary fucking place.
That is.
That's because that's another thing. If you look at the amount of pornography that these children are looking at, it also desensitizes them. It's just something on a screen.
It's just crazy.
So,
teach your kid to go out and have real sex.
Yeah, it's funner that way.
Plus, from the way it looks like, the Earth in 100 years from now is going to be a whole lot smaller, which might make things a whole lot better.
We're whacking it too much.
But there ain't going to be nobody out there to fucking fix your plumbing when it goes out.
Nope. All right. Diddle with your plumbing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. God bless everyone. Have a happy Memorial Day. Later this week, we have got Toby Brolin with Cadillac Creek Outfitters will be on with us on Wednesday, Thursday night at 6 o'clock Central Time. Coyote Man, Clay Reed, we will be doing our first live YouTube. We tried to do this about 6 weeks ago. Finally got all the kinks worked out, we hope. He'll be in studio 6 o'clock. We'll do live. You'll be able to check us out on YouTube, ask us questions, what's the word I'm looking for?
Interact
with us. Thank y'all. God bless y'all. Have a great week.
Before you leave here, go check out all of our great sponsors. I know it feels like the dog days of summer are just now heating up, but we're closing in on hunting season. Go check out Pacific Calls, Shin Gear Waders, Dirty Duck Coffee, Dive Bomb Industries, Boss Shot Shells, Alpha Outdoors, Lucky Duck, Looking Glass Duck Club Podcast, Gun Dog Outdoors, Stanfield Hunting Outfitters, and Bangtail Whiskey.